you're letting other people's voices sell you on other ideas. And go figure, it's their ideas of happiness and what is right and wrong that is selling you and pulling you closer to them and farther away from you. So until you allow yourself to sell you on you, you're dealing with other marketing messages.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Rochester Business Connections, powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC, where I get the chance to chat with Rochester, New York's very best business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. I am your host, Ben Albert. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, we don't do advertisements. My fee for this show is simple. If you gain value from the episode, personally share with a friend and explain your favorite part. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to Rochester Business Connections on the Real Business Connections Network. I'm here with Caleb Nelson. Caleb, brother man, I'm excited to be with you. What's up? How are you?
Bro, I'm just grateful to share some time with you today. I've been hyped all week. When I saw that on my schedule, it's like, yes, let's go. This is a person I want to have a chat with. So just happy to be here, spend some time together and hang out.
I'm happy to be here as well. Grateful, blessed. Recently, we recorded an episode for your show. That is out now. It's not out at the time we're recording this, but it's fresh in my head. And one thing that I love about your show, Caleb, you're the host of Naked Sunday. I guess I should give a little context here. You're the host of Naked Sunday. You're a relationship coach for couples and you define yourself first, because I feel like you do so many things in the coaching sphere, coming from fitness to, marriage and relationships. Define what you do first for us. It's a hard one, right? Because you do so many things.
Well, we had just brought it up beforehand, and I don't know if I'm stealing your question from you here, but like I've put on my LinkedIn profile and all my other places, you're concierge to happiness.
Yes.
And I knew you said like, hey, you could feel comfortable defining that. And I just hopped off another call right before this. And I was like, what does that mean what does that mean? I'm like, the truth is, I don't know yet, because happiness is individual to the person that's explaining their dream. I don't know until they tell me. And then I see myself as a vehicle to help shepherd them through wherever that's going to go. So, you brought up health, fitness, relationships, business. I see it as all the same thing. I'm helping guide a human being and their partner, because it's all about relationships at the end of the day, closer to whatever that is. Many people hear me somebody be like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm living the dream. I say it all the time. It's almost just automatic at this point. But it's true. I've made a conscious decision not that long ago. And by that, I mean a few years ago. Like, I am just living the dream. It could have been a nightmare, or it could be a dream, like the ups and downs and all those things. And I think it's a choice. And on this pursuit of happiness, however that's going to go, I just have a lot of fun helping walk people through that. So from a functional standpoint, what does that mean? I coach people through stuff to be a better person, to be a better leader, to be a better business owner, whatever that is. When we brought up couples, when we brought up relationships, I see the home as the training ground for happiness. How do you engage with your significant other? How do you engage with the rest of your family, your kids, your parents, your friends, your family, all of those things? If you can't solve that, especially since I know a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, however you want to define yourself in that identity frame, they see themselves in that way, but they forget that this is the other thing. If you solve that home problem first, where there's all the emotions and deeper stuff wrapped up into it, you can walk into your professional life much more powerful, much more present, much more in tune, because you set up those systems which will feed the family more or less more efficiently. You'll give it more time. You'll value it properly, value your time properly. And then ultimately with that, you make space and time and resources to take care of your physical health and your mental health and your emotional health. So again, bringing it back to what you brought up in the beginning, I do a lot of things. I see myself as very much a generalist. And I like to focus on like higher level concepts because I don't want to know the nitty gritty of everything. I just really don't. But I do like to know the people that do know the nitty gritty on very specific topics. That is their nirvana to solve that problem. So I got friends who love looking at spreadsheets. They'll show me a spreadsheet, my eyes glaze over. Like, it's just the way it is. Do I understand it? Do I respect it from like a higher level concept? For sure. But that's part of like my concierge roles. Like, hey, I understand some of your deeper problems, and most people feel like a struggle to open up and like really be honest with what happiness is to them. And then whether I can help them shepherd them through that like transition phase to a person who is like the true expert for that piece. That's where I see my role, that kind of the dude who's comfortable in that awkward milieu.
Yeah.
Long answer there.
And I love it because you are a guide and you're taking people by the hand and being their concierge, leading them. And you don't have all the answers, as you just said, but you know how to be the connector and put them in the best situation possible to succeed. And in addition to that, man, I love how you're talking about your home life and work. And we all have different blends of work and life and leisure, but if you're happy at home and you've got that together, you're going to do better at work. And is doing better at work is going to make you happier and be able to provide at home and be able to actually enjoy your leisure because you're not stressed. So it's all intertwined, right? These things are all intertwined. And I appreciate you going deep. We're jumping around, but where I kind of wanted to start was one thing I loved about being on your podcast, Naked Sunday, is that you start with an acknowledgement. And I haven't done it before, so I didn't know the best way to do it. So I was like, oh, wait, I'm just acknowledging him, but no one knows who he is yet, so I didn't know the best way to do it. But I want to rewind to take a moment to acknowledge you, because I think one thing that's really interesting about Naked Sunday, again, guys, go subscribe and listen to that. I was on that podcast as well, is that you start with an acknowledgement. And by starting with an acknowledgement, I feel like you give people permission to be themselves. You edify them and make them feel good. You give them permission to show up in their best self, because a lot of people don't get that positive reinforcement as much as they should and as much as they deserve. So the fact you start the podcast with, bro, gal, friend, folk, I'm on your side. This is what I love about you, really sets a great standard. So I wanted to recognize you as the king at recognition and just kind of be a testimonial of the fact that you are there to be a concierge, to hold people by the hand and help them every step of the way. I'm wondering, because if I were to go on like a crazy trip, like a vacation, and I were to have a concierge, I would want them to tailor based on my needs, of course. But I also don't exactly know what I want or what I need. That's part of why I have the concierge. So when it comes to whether it's happiness or growth or, centricity in the family life, any of the things that we work on, are there kind of guideposts? Are there essentials that you focus on? So again, as my concierge, I want you to take the lead in pointing me in the right direction. I want to be able to make the decision, like the final checkmark call. But are there certain directions you like to lead your clients in that you find are successful?
First, I want to say thank you for the acknowledgement. That means a lot. And it was literally last year where I practiced like learning how to accept compliments. So that means a big deal. That means a great deal to me. But I think the world of you, man. And that just coming from somebody I respect very highly, bro, that like warms my heart. So thank you so much for that.
You bet,
to answer your question. Yeah. It's all about sharing the love, brother. We need more of that in this world. To answer your question, what I start with it's kind of as I say my answer, like, how do you define happiness? I don't know in the beginning. And the place I like to start with is like, let's first set the intention. Let's host a space for you to be honest. Much like you talked about, like, so anybody wants to know my coaching style, go listen to the podcast. That's it. Like, there's a reason why we do it this way. It's about setting a space for you to eliminate the noise, the expectations, the judgments that, like, when you talked about, like, most people are not being acknowledged for what they are, like what they see that's good in them. Most people are just told all day, don't do this. You're bad at that. You suck at this. Improve that. Don't, no, should, good, like all that. When we create a space where they feel safe enough to be honest, the cool part is they already know the answer. I'm just saying, cool, let me go find the next space for it. Let's wheedle that out.
Double down on that for me real quick. So you said they already know the answer.
Yeah. Well,
what do you mean by that?
I think so many people have got caught up in their head. They forgot to check in with their heart. And we know we do know what we want. There's the societal expectations. And by society, I mean, anybody who starts going down, like, I'm going to call this a spiritual journey if you want to. And that's a very vague term. However, somebody wants to define that. It doesn't have to be religious based or whatever. Something, the pursuit of bigger than yourself. We're so mechanical, but if you look back into it, it's like, oh, a lot of our stuff is generated from the expectations of our parents and our siblings and our friends and family, like the people who framed us early in our life. And those voices are still booming in our head for the rest of life. But when we come out of the womb, when we're like these precious, beautiful little babies just do. Like, they cry, they scream, they yell, like, I'm hungry, deal with it. I'm telling you, I'm hungry again. I don't care if you're like, we know how to say what we want when we're younger. And then somehow we get conditioned out of it because of whatever scarcity tactic or whatever's going on in the person who's guiding us at that point in our life. I see my role really as like getting you back to that, like, being honest. And you've learned some stuff along the way. You've gone on a journey to accumulate some information, and people are smart. Like, I operate from that primarily. Like, people are smart, and you know yourself better than I know you. I don't need to set up some hierarchical thing in this world, but you're caught up in your head, which is all about this information. I need more information. I need more to make a better decision. Not really. Most people have all the information they need. And if they really don't know it, it's free on the internet. It just is what it is. What we haven't checked in is like, how does all of that come back to what we say we want? And most people are not checking in with that. And I see it in the coaching space all the time. You should want this. You need to make X amount. You need to, this is how it has to be. Maybe. Now, in like the mechanics of how people go about solving those problems in business or all that stuff, it all makes sense. But does it make sense for the individual? And if we don't check in first on the human, it's a square peg, round hole situation. And you don't actually have the buy-in from the individual. The problem is most people are not even buying in on themselves. So they go, basically follow some new God figure, they want to call it, some cult leader, some whatever, who's saying, this is the way, the only way, because you're lost and I know the way.
Yeah.
We can dive into it if we want to, but for me, that throws up some red flags, having gone down a few of those roads in my life. And the answer is within ourselves. We haven't, there's this thing in Ted Lasso. I know I wrote a bit on it on social media, but I'm only just going to give up this one thing. He's giving some advice. Somebody asked him for advice on what they should do about some relational situation. He says, like, get out of your head and go check in with your gut. And on your way down, stop in at your heart. And I'm like, boom. I mean, and he has it with this jovial little laugh and his like quirky little ways. But I'm like, dude, hit it on the head. We're not aligning all these things. We're trying to put so much on all this stuff. And again, like, for me to just keep telling somebody what they want, like that I know better, doesn't actually set them up to just trust themselves in the future. They need to learn how to start making those decisions of their own volition. They need to start being able to trust this, to say like, hey, I want this thing. And nobody says like, bad. I could say, okay, cool. How do we want to get there? And we can set up a framework and a timeline that is more appropriate. How do I eventually get around to that? To say, where do we start after they're honest about what they want?
Right.
Well, it's an audit. Same way most people will be like, cool, you want to like make more money? Well, first we got to look at your books. Let's take an audit. Let's look at where the money's going. Usually we're going to, oh, we got to find a budget and we got to da 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 da. But for me, above all else, I value my time. And when it comes down to the framework of happiness, it's how I'm allocating time between three key areas. And I've talked about it a little bit with you, but I call it the nexus of happiness: self-care, meaningful work, and quality connections, i.e. your relationships. And if you can visualize this from a Venn diagram standpoint, it's where the intersection of those three circles, that's that nexus, the middle of that, that's the sweet spot. We need to find where that lines up. And until we look at how time is being allocated between all of those things, we don't realize that we're probably doing a crash diet approach in one spot. We bleed ourselves dry in another, and then we have to go like play catch up in the other, and then the other one, and then the other one, and then the other one. So more or less I do a time audit, and I have a couple other components in there of even like physical, how does it physically manifest? People don't want to think that the body is a beautiful journal. In fact, it's the best journal there is. It doesn't miss a beat. It's always going every single day. Your sleep, what food you've taken in, how much extra, all the stuff, all of your stress, it's all there. I won't go too far down that because people get a little sensitive, but with a few different basic metrics, both of looking at where your time goes from and it's completely qualitative. You can tell, somebody can tell me what self-care looks like. I don't know what they would deem like. Going to the movies for like once a week might be your self-care thing. Do you, man? Did it make you feel better about the world? Awesome. Meaningful work. I think of that like anybody who's ever heard of the term Ikigai or Ikigai. I never know how to pronounce it exactly, but it's a Japanese term. Think of another nexus, another like overlapping of Venn diagram. It's the work you love to do. It's like lights your world on fire. You're so inspired by the time you're done. Like, I can't wait to do it again. That you're really good at, that helps others, basically means provides value, and you can charge what you're worth within that. You find that intersection. Are you doing that enough? Especially as business owners that are listening right now, a lot of people start to hate their business because they're just doing too many things because they're trying to control everything. No wonder you're burnt out. Crazy. See where that is. And then we got to look at your quality connections. Where are your relationships going? Are you spending enough time with your wife or your husband? Are you spending enough quality time with your friends? I don't think enough. Like, I just talked to one of my best friends yesterday. It was his birthday. And I tell him, I'm like, bro, I do a weekly boys' night every Wednesday. Every Wednesday. It's one of my favorite things to look forward to. And I come back from that even happier to see my wife. And she gets a better version of me. You think is it crazy to think that that's going to help my marriage? No, it's not. It's a beautiful thing. So we're not thinking about the aggregate. It's always like, here's the myopic thing. And it turns out that people just jam a square peg in a round hole. Even though the solution on paper might work out, it's not taking a look at the biggest picture and saying like, hey, where's the real problem? You don't necessarily have a sales problem. You might be having friction at home, which is getting you tired out, stressed out, taking away from your self-care, might be feeling terrible in your body. And then when you show up at work, you look burnt out. That's going to probably affect the way you talk to people and how smoothly you communicate a message or ask questions or whatever, which then of course turns into exchanges of money. Mm-hmm. So I know I've kind of like gone on a whirlwind Caleb rant here, but it makes my wife's eyes roll most of the time. She's like, can you get to the point? But to that effect, like most people don't zoom out and see like they're all the same thing. And perhaps getting to the closer point of what I more often not see that people are lacking in is you got to look at what's going on at home first. And that until you at least make some space there and create some levity, however that looks, it doesn't mean your marriage is falling apart. It might just mean there's a little more friction. It might just mean you haven't made enough time to say, hey, by the way, I still love you and prioritize you in my life. When you have your partner in crime who's a who is completely in alignment with you, the person you're building your life, building your legacy with on the same page, it's a lot easier to say, hey, so I need to make time to go do this work today that's going to be in alignment with our vision. I'm coming. Like it just smooths things out. When you say, hey, I really need to go get some self-care time because I want to make sure when we go on that vacation together, I'm showing up and I'm present. I want to make sure I don't need a vacation from my vacation. I want to show up with you day one and just show you how much I love you and be present in the moment. Like it's these little things that most people don't recognize until they've like crashed and burned 1,000 times in all of that and go, oh, wait, there's got to be a better way. I don't need to suffer my way through life. This could be so much better. So I'll take a breath there for a second because I'm starting to stumble over my words.
I love it, and like 500,000 questions came up during that, which is the point. It's funny, Caleb. I was watching a speech by Ryan Holiday. He's wrote a lot of books, one of which is "Obstacle is the Way." Mm-hmm. And when you were talking about your wife, Caleb, get to the point. What popped into my head out of the blue was process is the point. Mm. The process is the point. And I appreciate you taking the time to walk through in depth, kind of get a little bit microscopic, because the process of thinking it through, not just having the pithy, perfect statement, to me, I can learn so much by the Caleb's train of thought and Caleb's train of passion. Because at the end of the day, like when we're looking at, self-care, relationships, doing meaningful work, that's not something you just do and then you're done, right? It's a process that you need to embody and live every single day, right? It's not something that, I filled in each 3. I've got my Venn diagram, good to go. This is a daily practice, right?
Absolutely. And it's going to adapt. And to that effect, I think a great place for people to understand a starting point. If you think of like karate belts, white belt, establishing like your white belt in life is knowing what your minimums for each of those things are. So how much minimum self-care time do you need per week so you don't blow the rest of your life up? How much meaningful work do you need every single week? Usually it's like creative stuff, whatever that is, however you like to create. Mine is podcasting more often than not, or talking to you, like this kind of thing. What is minimum relationship time in all those facets? Know that. And then you can start to play, because what's important when you first establish those things and you're just consistent with that, anybody who's ever been in the martial arts, whenever they get their black belt, I hear them like all these other shows and whatnot. When you get your black belt, they go, that's when my education started. That's when I started to learn, because it's the mechanics. Like I need to get good at just the basics over and over and over and over and over again. But then you can pull in nuance, because if you can't just have a single date night every single week with your wife, what makes you think that going on a week-long vacation or taking a 1-month sabbatical to travel the world together is going to be good? It doesn't make sense. It's the same way of saying, great, you've been squatting 10 pounds. Let's slap 300 pounds on the bar. Deal with that. You don't have the capacity to know how to manage that burden effectively. It's the same problem with people who win the lottery. All of a sudden, I got millions of dollars in my bank account. I don't know how to handle that capital. Somebody who has worked through those pieces and learned how to create, dare I say, a stable and sustainable ecosystem to house that, now you can play. It's, well, how do we want to have date night? What does date look like now? Can we take a week-long vacation? Can I travel on the road and do work? Can I go into a different workout environment? Can I try meditating this way? Can I whatever? As time goes on, you realize you can be flexible in a lot of different environments. The gentle framework can expand because your capacity to absorb that new load is there. But I don't think enough people think about that. So, and I don't even know where it started from, but it's really just coming back to, yes, maybe you start with that. And at a minimum, when you get this, success is going to start getting thrown at you all the time, because all of a sudden you're going to create a bunch of space in your life. Perfect example. I hired a stylist. She came into my house. We worked on my closet. Mind you, that was like couples therapy just to like earn an extra like half a foot of closet space on my side. That was beyond, because it's my wife's house and I'm happen to be living in it. So there's that piece. But maybe like 3-4 weeks later, we hadn't like gotten new clothes or anything like that. And she's like, so how are you feeling? I go, it was awesome. This is great. I'm resisting, because where I'm at in my life, like it was other themes going on. I'm resisting the urge to want to put something back in because it's nice to have less to maintain. Most people, when they have this new space, they see all the opportunities that they were missing beforehand because they're clear of mind. And the urge of I'm missing out or I'm falling behind starts creeping in. If I don't say yes to this thing, it's going to go away. I need to fill my life back up. And the same problem, I fill up my time that I had purposely created space for with new busyness, but didn't clarify what new complexity, which is a new thing, a new variable, because you don't know what it's going to be like yet. What new complexity, what are the deal breakers and the non-negotiables that I need to say yes to something? That's really hard. That's really, no matter who you are, I don't care how smart you are. I just talked to one of my best friends yesterday about that. And he dealt with like some like the market's kind of getting weird. And he was like, yeah, I've talked about this stuff. Here I was feeling it. Whoa, way different. And again, he's one of the smartest people I know. And it's like, I'm glad I went through it right now because, well, just because most people don't understand how to deal with that abundance, but we rush into it because we're trying to buy the yacht and the plane and have the Barbie girlfriend or have the title or have the 6-pack abs yesterday, as opposed to what you had brought up, the process. What is the process? Well, I'm going to create stability at this part of the foundation, just like a pyramid. Let's get the base set up. Let's get the foundation of the house solid.
Right.
Lock it in like it's concrete. You wouldn't build a house in mud. Start there. And then maybe we do the next thing. And then maybe the next thing. And like, okay, cool. Finally, we get to the top floor. Well, what do you want the top floor to be? Is that where the master bedroom is? And what does the master bedroom look like? And like all the knickknacks and all the stuff. And if you do that, like it can look very lavish, but it won't be lavish. It'll fit very contextually appropriately. I don't know if that was redundant words in there, but whatever. It will fit contextually to what you really want. It will have your unique flair, but it won't look out of place. It won't look like you're trying. It's like, oh, this was a natural decision. I can see why you did that, because you understand the problem it solved. Or just because you wanted it and you know how to fit it into your life and you accept the consequences and the burdens that come with that, the maintenance that comes with it. You have a solution for that other stuff. And you want those problems because you know that about yourself and you took the time to deal with it and you know how to get out if you decide to take on those burdens. So, I had an ironic thing when I owned a gym for about 10 years and I know I'm kind of coming back to the beginning with this about foundations. I had somebody once say, and this was after I had a slew of like members leave through a change in culture. He goes, yeah, I talked to a couple of people that are like, yeah, people go to the Caleb's gym, but like, once you learn the basics with him, like you're good, you can go run off into the world. I'm like, guys, same problem. I told him, I said this to his face, so like, same problem. People think because they learn how to squat a little bit that they know it all. Awesome. Doesn't mean you should slap 300 pounds on the bar tomorrow. No, you don't. And I'm like, here's me who's been training for, at that point, 20 years, like physically myself. I've incurred all the injuries, got the degrees and the certification, all that stuff, which none of it really care about. I had the time under tension and I was doing these basics with them to say like, guys, how about we slow down? And do you even care about having 300 pounds on the bar? Is that just to stroke your ego because you don't feel good somewhere else in your life? How about we just talk about like, what's happiness to you? Granted, that was 7 years ago and I was way too insecure to host that conversation at that point, the rest of it. But, hopefully in all of that, like what I can bring, like the magic sauce or the process or whatever. Like the key point is like, take more time to build your base, because then you'll have flexibility to make moves on what you really care about without exhausting your resources.
I love this because one of the best things anyone ever asked me in the whole fitness world was, Ben, how do you feel? How do you feel? And it's like focusing on, oh, I want to hit 150 benching, or I want to weigh this amount, or I need to do this diet because I'm insecure for this reason. And he just said, how do you feel? And usually, especially if you're looking for these metrics to hit, you don't feel good. Is hitting the metric going to make you feel better? Maybe. But that's not really treating the problem, is it?
Not at all. And that's really, I would go so far to say profound, that he had the confidence to ask the question, then let you sit in that space. And it's, I don't know when he said that to you or whoever it was, guy, girl, whatever. Clearly it sat with you. And that takes a lot of courage, because what I hear in that is he didn't own your outcome. He didn't own, you have to be with me and I'm telling you what's right and wrong, which kind of comes back to the start of this the whole conversation.
Yeah.
He empowered you to say, well, what do you want? And what are you as the individual basing success on? And especially if you're feeling better from like what you really care about, not as somebody else is like, if I have 155-pound bench or 300-pound bench, neither, they're both the same thing. They're just a weight on a bar. Your body doesn't know or care. It doesn't, like, just, we put numbers on those weights. We assign weight. Like, what if it was just a stone and you had like outside your house and you had to move it? You'd have no idea.
No.
You'd have zero concept. It's just a thing that I have to move, and success was moving from here to there. Cool. Can I do it? Yeah. Awesome. Did I hurt myself doing it? No. Cool. I guess we're good. We've brought these other tools that are cool because we can calibrate and we can make systems around it. We can perfect how we get there and increase speed and all that other stuff. Awesome. But if we still deviate from what the purpose of it is, it doesn't matter how good it is from a system standpoint. Good is relative.
Yeah.
Good is relative to what you care about. And you see it a lot in the fitness industry. It's like, don't get me wrong, watching somebody put massive amounts of weight overhead is what gets the likes and the clicks and the shares on social media.
Mm-hmm.
From a marketing standpoint, awesome. When you're trying to run a business, here, check out how cool my people are. But the important part in that statement is my people. Here's what I do, as opposed to the people I like to work with celebrate this, this, and this, and this. Here's some examples of how they find happiness and fulfillment and use fitness with this. And this is how I shepherd them through that process. Now, much to what you had brought up before, like we're having a nuanced conversation right now, which I love that about the podcast. It speaks a lot to who you are, I believe, as a human being, that you can hold space for this. People are terrified to have long form conversation because it might, quote unquote, expose me, whatever that means. But we can flesh out thoughts. We can sit and we can listen to it, and we can see where we're really coming from. We can see where the intention's coming from. And the sales cycle is much longer, but the person you get there is way more bought in. Mm-hmm. They're also going to be a very thoughtful consumer. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the people that work with you, or people that are listening to this, are thoughtful consumers. They're not people who are looking for just the Band-Aid fix. They want to find a solution that really solves a deeper problem. That means we need to talk a little longer in the beginning, take a little longer to build a beautiful foundation. On the other side, long-term, in a business, in a relationship, in your health, you'll have it for like years and decades to come.
Right.
Crazy thought. But that's why I think like what you're doing here is so powerful. What you're hosting space for is about the nuance and taking a bigger picture look at all this stuff that affects the human being that's guiding others in a service or whatever they're doing, selling a product, which is just a piece of the service. Mm-hmm. they're guiding others to find a solution to that problem they have in their life. But it's only a piece of their life. It's not the whole life. And if we try to make our thing somebody's whole life, one, is that responsible? Do you want that weight? Like, that's a cult leader, guys. Everybody's listening. That's a cult leader. It's control. I control you. I tell you what's right. But like having been in some very scarce mindset places in my life where I was fearing rejection or resources, lack of resource, all that stuff, I definitely stepped into that shell. And I can say quite literally, it was very inauthentic. And the shelf life of that was very short, and it was massively exhausting because it was my own insecurities that made me want to control everything and all decisions and all the stuff, and like be so certain and secure in the outcome because I had to hold tight to it. Like there was no space to grow. I couldn't breathe anymore. I don't even know how I got to that part of this thing, but like, again, you're seeing rambles on thoughts.
When it all comes full circle. So Joe came to my mind. I'm going to digress a little bit, then we'll come back. But you're talking about, lifting a rock, carry the rock. At the end of the day, did you move the rock or you didn't? It's really all that matters. But then what came to mind just a moment ago is the strongman competitions where they've actually weighed the rock. We've gotten so far that now we are weighing the rocks. So when we lift the rock, we could be like, I lifted a rock so we get so calculated, but we're missing the point. And in a moment, I want to get like very tangible because I love that we're so nuanced, but I want people to write notes on the tangible. But to give just an example in my life of this whole culty kind of not listening or being a shepherd, rather being the square peg round hole mentality. And I really respect the sales trainer, so I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus. And it was one of his guys that I was talking to. But I was talking to, someone who worked for the sales trainer about their program. And it has to just be with the scripts that he's been taught. Like he definitely has been taught a script that he's following. But his focus was, you are at A, now you want to be at B. Why aren't you at B yet? And it was all financial. It was 100% revenue metrics. It's, you're a salesperson making this amount. How much do you want to make? Okay, I want to make this amount. All right, how do I get you there as quick as possible? And why are you failing to get there? And what's stopping you from reaching that goal? And if you do what you're doing now, are you ever going to get there? And they're good problem building questions. I love the fact that it's not like we have the solution for you. It's, why haven't you got there yet? And then it builds the pain inside of you. What was the issue in this sales conversation was, I love sales. I've been in sales like my whole life. I love good salespeople. So I'm an open, honest person. So I'll equip someone everything they need to know to build a relationship with me. And I'm telling him, like, I'm a small business owner. I have some freelancers, but I'm very small. If I were to go from A to B too quickly, the foundation of my business would crumble. I can't take on that amount of sales this quickly, ethically, and do a good job. So it's really important for me to learn the skills. However, knowledge and education is actually more important than income. I want to have the knowledge and the education even before the income because I know I can use that to create a better, stronger future, and I'll continue to use those skills. But I can't go from A to B really quick because I don't have the foundation to. And from his perspective, he pitches people all day. So he gets the sale and then moves on, but he doesn't see my perspective of, I can't just sell someone and then go sell someone and then go sell someone. So to go from revenue A to B in a squeezed amount of time would actually be a terrible business decision for me because I would just be in over my head. So that was the scenario, and this is like a projection. But in his case, I think that if he had listened to me better, I was kind of giving him the answers. But for someone, and I want to get tangible, for someone who doesn't quite know what they want, everyone says you need more income. You're at A, you need to get at B. You're too heavy. You're at A, you need to be B. Your family doesn't look this way. It should look this way. They don't know how to get, they don't really even know what they want yet. And they're listening this and they love the nuance and they love to learn and grow, but they're still kind of curious, like, what do I want? What is important to me? I know it's not simple, but is there a way to simplify that process so someone can leave this conversation with a little bit of a clearer vision of what they do want to accomplish? Because everyone's going to say, you need this. But really, how do I figure out what I need? You know?
Probably the smallest and smartest step I could recommend, if I had control, shall we say, is carve out time to just sit and do nothing. And the stuff will come up. And I say this is where my fun nuance around this from 9 different angles will come into play. The amount of people I know that say they can't sit still for a minute is astounding. And all that tells me is you're afraid to just sit and do nothing because the stuff will come up. The obvious things that you already know, everything that I just said about happiness or knowing what you want, all the reasons why that's not happening and how maybe afraid you are to see how far or not that far you are from that accomplishment or that goal or whatever that thing is. We're just afraid to just sit with it and stare at it long enough. There's a reason why Naked Sunday came around. It was, I just sat butt naked on a Sunday and did nothing and dealt with the thoughts. That's it. Like, the punchline is that.
Yeah.
For me, that started changing the way I attacked my health. And by attacking, I mean, like, made peace with my health. It stopped being a mountain I could climb and be like, how do I fall in love with this? And it started with, like, walking. My knees hurt at the time. I just started walking. I would do mobility at night. Just started there. But it started with a concerted effort to sit naked, figuratively, and in my case, literally, and allowing, like, the boredom or the fear or whatever to feel my feels and listen. Like, I had to shut up all the other voices for a second. Meditation, whatever you want to call it. Mindfulness, use all the cue words and punchlines that are out there, but like, it's carving out space to listen, which is great salesmanship, which is great coaching, which is great anything. Right now, you're letting other people's voices sell you on other ideas. And go figure, it's their ideas of happiness and what is right and wrong that is selling you and pulling you closer to them and farther away from you. So until you allow yourself to sell you on you, you're dealing with other marketing messages. Punchline, carve out some time and start with the lowest number that you feel confident you could accomplish. In sales, how I've described it to people when they're like trying to raise their prices, I'm like, say the highest number you can say without cracking a smile. Okay, so if you're going to say the same idea for how long I'm going to sit there, I'm going to sit for 1 minute. I can do that without having, that kind of gets into like some of my like athletics and training backgrounds and stuff like that. We call them autonomic Heismans. Like, your body is telling you, if you don't feel comfortable enough to just be like straight up, I can look in the mirror and say, I'm sitting still for a minute. Okay, 30 seconds. Start wherever. It might be 10 seconds. I don't really care. It's more the practice of, I stop and I listen to the voices that are there. And you sit with it long enough and you realize you usually have an answer. Truth be told, people work with me and coaches by and large just because they like them and they help facilitate that conversation faster. So you value time. That's why, like, I don't really pitch pain. It's like, do you want to do it alone or you want to do it with somebody else? That's it. Like, this is really it. So, in my life, what I've realized is, like, why do we get married? We could just be single the rest of our life and, pass on our seed in one way, shape, or form. but it seems to be nicer to go on the journey with somebody else. I don't know. It's accountability. It's whatever it is. So in the same token, could you do it alone? Sure. We build businesses, we build amazing things together, because what we're really doing is saying, hey, bring me back to that space. The skill of saying, what do you really want? And just allowing you to struggle in that, which is massively hard as somebody who actually cares about other people.
Yeah.
But that's the gift. I'm going to watch you struggle, and I'm going to be there, and I continue to hold that space because I know you're capable of getting through it. That's it. So I took a very short, supposedly tactical answer and took it into like, that's all the things behind that.
There's a lot of power to allowing someone that you care about, love, support, to sit in their pain rather than trying to jump in and being like, I have the great grand solution. This ties back into where you started. We already have the answer, right? But it sounds like we don't always take the time to sit naked on a Sunday, strip off all these material things we wear, literally or figuratively, and actually listen to ourselves for that answer. I'm wondering, and this is not a prescriptive question, but how often do you take time to sit like that? It's not prescriptive, like your answer is not going to be exactly what we should do, but it's not like you just do it once and then you're forever done. How often do you kind of take that time away to sit, silence, naked or not, just have that silence and have that proverbial naked Sunday? Is it every Sunday?
No, well, I don't sit naked. Somebody actually asked me the other day, like, do you still actually do naked Sunday? It's not some, like, that's where the great part of like naked, my response was exactly what we're going to say right now, is like, it's not about being physically naked.
Right.
It's about checking in.
Right.
And to give anybody like scope on this, I used to feel massively guilty about taking time for just me to do nothing and sit alone with my thoughts. What I did not realize on the back end of that, once I started to see some of those things, like the byproduct of that, I realized I had much better solutions that solved bigger problems because I took a little more time. And that made me like, there was my buy-in to that. I was like, oh, I sat with something that could make, quote unquote, allow me to see a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the line. See, in a sense of like, I'm not predicting the future, but I could see where these patterns would go, and I could accumulate other information from people I trust who are good in other spaces. But for me, like, sweet spot, I love at least 3 hours to just do me, like whatever that is going to be. I love just sitting alone and wandering off into the universe with my brain. And sometimes it's like, I love watching movies. I love watching shows that like take me on a journey somewhere else, because I like put myself in that vehicle. I would even go so far as to say, even in like my coaching practice and whatever you want to call that, like podcasting, everything, it's a constant activity of me trying to put myself in somebody else's shoes to see back towards what I'm doing right then and there. Does that mean I'm doing it all the time? Maybe, maybe not. But like, I try to get as much as humanly possible all the time. But like, I think I've built a space now where like my happiest sweet spot is probably like 3 hours a day. How that gets distributed, I don't know. Sometimes it's working out. Sometimes it's binge watching a show on a Friday, which I did last Friday, and like literally a 10 episode season, like all the way through. Whatever. Like, I gave myself permission for that because like it's compiling data. How is somebody else saying this thing? In the aggregate, I don't know how, like maybe I'm getting 3 hours a day. I'm not sure, but I think I moved to a place now where it's a little more intuitive, and I just allow, like when I feel the itch and I feel a little cloudy in my brain, I make a very concerted effort to just like go down my schedule and like move appointments just because I'm like, let's roll. And just for the record, for anybody who feels guilty about that, like the people you want to be working with will all go, dude, that's awesome. You know what? And as the universe always has it, they're like, you know what? Actually, I was really busy that day. I'm kind of glad you canceled and had to reschedule. Like the people who get it will get it. The people who don't are going to have a temper tantrum. Like usually that. Now, granted, don't make it a routine. Like
Right.
first, like if you're not constantly doing that, they'll be like, oh, makes complete sense. Thank you for making sure you show up with great energy for this call with me. That was respect. If it's every single time, that's a different conversation. But like by and large, that will be the response you're going to get. And that's because people see it as self-awareness and maturity. So
thank you for showing up to this call with me and giving it your all.
Bro, hyped.
I appreciate it. And it's funny because this happened to me the other day. I tripped on a PlayStation controller, landed falling on an outstretched arm. So it's called foosh. It's falling on an outstretched hand. Foosh. I learned that term the other day, but I screwed my hand up where I couldn't even use it. Like it was really bad from a light fall. And honestly, it made me rethink my entire existence that I'm at the age where I can't catch my fall without getting hurt. But the whole point here was I showed up to a call genuinely in pain, but it was on the calendar for 6 weeks. And I opened the call with, I am genuinely in pain. You're not going to see, I still am having trouble lifting it at this time, but you're not going to see my left arm at all today. It's because I'm holding it like it's a sling. By the end of that call, we were laughing. We were like, I just met this lady. But since I opened with that permission to be human and vulnerable in the fact I am here with you presently, but I'm not, I'm not at 100%, but I'm still coming to the engagement. That's key, right? So having to reschedule is okay. And when you show up, and even if you're not perfect, just acknowledging that, that's okay too, right? All people want is you to show up as your authentic self. Am I correct? That's what I've seen.
How else do we stick out in this world and trust somebody? If you're just a robot, like cookie cutter, you could get that anywhere. Like that's not, especially when you're solving deep problems, which are, by the way, human problems. Anybody who's listening, they want to deal with a human. That's simple. It's as simple as that.
Wait, so humans want to deal with humans? I would have never thought that.
Crazy thought. Like, I don't know about you, but man, anytime I get like the automated thing and all that, I'm like, just pick up the damn phone, please. Like somebody
Operator, please.
Answer me. I'll pay
Operator,
a little more.
Please.
Operator.
Operator, please.
It's exactly what happens. I had I won't put the airline in blast, but like I had like a text and I'm like, I know it's either AI or this was some really terrible training on how to deal with me changing this thing. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but like, it's the same thing. Could we just pick up the phone, talk to each other for a few seconds? It might take me 2 minutes, but I'll appreciate that. And like, let's move on from that. I love that you talked about that. And what I really appreciate about how you're saying it's the same way you prefaced this podcast. Hey, here's what you can expect. Here's the things. It's letting the other person know how you're arriving. And it's really coming down to you're just aware of yourself and you're comfortable telling people this is who I am. If you see this, this is what that means. And I have a friend right now going through a big transition in like his professional life, like out of consequence of greatness. But he told the people that he's transitioning through, he's like, hey, if you see this, this, and this, and this, it's not a you thing, man. I just struggle with transitions from like an emotional standpoint, from all these other things. This is me processing. And he's like, they all went like, bro, thank you for telling me that.
Yes.
That made my life so much easier. And it's like this, like I tell my wife all the time, much to like to everybody. My wife thinks I can read minds, but like, no, I can't. I can pick up on some signs and symptoms that something might be wrong, but I have been wrong before. Like crazy to say that I have been wrong. And anybody wants to put that on a poster, I actually have one. So as good friends would do, they made me one. The self-awareness and to say, hey, here's some quote unquote perceived flaws that you might see. It allows them to know how to calibrate themselves and their emotions for that day. Cool. I can show you my pure intentions. If I want to respect you, I understand. And if this thing, it's not a slight against me. Oh, thanks. It's presetting. That's great coaching. Like crazy. That's being a good human. And especially what I love about the way you just talked about sales and building all those things and knowing your limits. It's the same thing. Maybe you don't want 30 clients, 100 clients, whatever the number is. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just an idea. It's like the way you said it and being okay with it not coming yesterday allows people to say, like, okay, this guy does have my best interest in mind. He does value me as a human being, and he's looking to build a relationship. You know what? When he makes an ask, whatever the number is, they're far more likely to say yes because they understand the depth and that you're also looking into their future. You'd be like, I know if I do this right now at 3 months, we're going to have a fallout. I don't want that because I won't be able to serve you to my best abilities. I want to get you to here where we can really like amicably be like, we finished the job here. And you know what? You don't need me as this tool anymore. That is powerful. It does mean it will take longer, but the way you're approaching the conversation as the human being that you are, not the business owner, not the salesperson, none of that stuff, not the trainer of XYZ. The human you are says, hey, I accept that there's going to be unknowns. I accept that we are going to have sometimes a bumpy ride, but you're the person I want to walk through that bumpy ride with. Let's go. Because you value the relationship first and you happen to get the outcome as the bonus. Both will happen because you also have to be good at what you do. Like that's hopefully that's a given.
Yeah.
But the relationship will afford you the ups and downs along the way because it's a continual sale. You will say, hey, by the way, at 3 months, we might have this thing come up. Just so you know, this is how we're going to handle it. See, it's no different than everything you just said about your hand, which foosh is, that's new to me. Like, that's hysterical, but as a word, I'm sorry you hurt your hand. Like, hopefully it's feeling better. But like, it shows that you're just a great communicator and your self-awareness makes you a better leader. You already know, I think the world of you, but I love just hearing more about how you think through a thing. Anybody who's listening, I hope they took what you said there to heart because that's a big deal. It's a big deal how you communicate through pain. And that's how you build a real relationship. That's it.
I appreciate you, Caleb.
Feelings mutual, brother.
How do people listen? I was on your show, so people might have had enough of me. There's so many incredible guests on your show. How do people listen to Naked Sunday?
You can go, I'm on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so you can look at Naked Sunday. It's like neon pink and blue and black and gray and white and all that fun stuff. But if you go to anchor.fm/Naked Sunday, you can find the podcast, hang out, listen. Sometimes I talk by myself. Sometimes I talk with friends. The solo ones, I call them Leb Talks because, if you want to hear me rant for a while, I promise I try to keep it like 15 to 20 minutes when I do that because maybe I get bored with my own thoughts. I don't know. I try to get more to the point. But I probably, my favorite thing is to host people. So like, man, yeah, that's where you can find and listen. And I can't even remember when you're somewhere in the schedule. I can't remember where it is. Like, but we're going to have many more together. So
it's anytime I talk to a podcaster, or I had an event that I was speaking at, it's always a little interesting and confusing when you're talking live because you and I recorded and now you and I are recording for this show. But since neither are out yet, but I do know when this comes out, that'll be out. So that's all that matters. So that'll be in the show notes. Your podcast will be in the show notes. And I do want to close out, as always, with the rapid fire round. Ooh. These are short, sweet. Anytime someone goes rapid fire with me, I find a way to extend the answers. Don't be like you and I are the same. Do the best to keep them as succinct as possible because it's like Family Feud, but mixed with Whose Line Is It Anyway? So it's quick, short, easy, best answer possible, but the answers are completely subjective. The points don't matter. Completely just want to get to know Caleb a little bit better. So, cool. And you can fill in the blank. So let's get started with coffee or tea.
Coffee, 1000%.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Are you a morning person?
I'm an any time of day person.
Any time of day. As you might give the same answer. As a Northeaster, favorite season?
Summertime.
Actually, while we're recording this,
it's that turnover to summer. So late spring, early summer, or like the foliage is like foliage, the flowers and all that stuff. Like I love that late bloom. It's beautiful.
Perfect time to do what you said. Go out, just be quiet and be in your thoughts, right?
Yep.
I've never asked this one before, but we'll go with favorite fictional character, like a superhero, any fictional characters that you look up to, or any just favorites?
Yep. Favorite Batman.
Batman.
100%.
We'll do one or two more.
Sure.
So give me a couple, whether it's a podcast, a book, a YouTube channel. Where do you learn this stuff from? You didn't learn it all overnight, Caleb. Where do you get your information from?
I love listening to audiobooks. So I have like, I don't make any money off this, but I have an Audible subscription, and just anytime anybody says anything, I just put that on. And I like just watching movies. Like, as strange as that might sound, like I learn a lot through movies and shows. And because I don't look at it as just a movie or a show, I try to listen to the subcontext to it.
Ooh, yeah, that was again, Kathy Palikoff. She's episode like 30 something forever ago. She gave that advice that she said, if you want to be a better marketer, if you want to be better in the business nonfiction world, you should actually be involving yourself in more creativity and fiction, because it'll allow you to show up in the nonfiction world more interesting. Mm-hmm. And that was eye-opening for me. And I love that you double down on that, because I'm so into self-development and nonfiction that sometimes a good movie, or even like reality TV or a talk show or something fun like that, that'll help you show up better at home and at work too, right? It's again, like we've been saying, like a holistic perspective. We're not just business person with business knowledge. Dude, I'm watching this show. No, I'm the one rambling during the rapid fire round, right?
I'm enjoying it.
I've been watching this show. It's called The Circle. Ooh. And it's so opposite of what I would usually read or watch. It's basically everyone sets up a social media profile. No one gets to see each other, and they only talk through social media. And based on who's most the most popular person wins. So it's very vain. It's very against what I believe in authenticity. But it's interesting because, like, you can catfish. So you can pretend to be someone you're not. So there's the catfish, and then there's the real people, and they're forming relationships, romantic and personal. And again, Caleb, I'm rambling, but it's so opposite of everything that I do and usually read. And I love that. It's like, I'm like you, I'm getting into the social psychology of their interactions. And I like that I can see them, and they're giving a little bit of back, like they're talking it through before they send the text message. So imagine every time you received a text message, you get to see the internal thoughts before they send that text. That's what's happening in the show, The Circle, because it's reality TV. I'm not making any money off this, but sometimes that goofy, tacky, kind of low common denominator, no disrespect to anyone who thinks it isn't low common denominator, but sometimes that stuff's fun, man.
Well, to that effect, and I'll triple down, I guess. Okay. Somebody said this like a year or two ago, where I was like, they said, if you entertain them, then they'll be willing to learn. And it's like people want, and my initial assertion was people want to be entertained more. They want to be educated. And they took it and they said, no, if you do this, you will, you earn the right, quote unquote, in their mind to say like, cool, I'll listen to the rest of what you got to say. But people are, if we can take it out of the context of most people are bored and lonely all day long. They want some levity. They want to laugh. They want to giggle, which I know we're in, I also actually, I listen to a lot of comics, like comedians. Comedy allows you to bring sensitive subjects to the surface, play with them. And everybody's idea of funny is different. But if you can make fun of something, notice the word fun, then you can actually bring a topic to surface that makes it feel less dangerous, and then you can explore it. Same idea we just talked about with coaching. It's like social coaching all at once, where you're, and so who do I hear like says it's like mass hypnosis. You're literally sitting and making people laugh, and they say like, cool, here's this idea. It's now been dropped in your head. I've presented it a few different ways. Here's how some people think, how other people think. I'm going to leave you with it. Cool. It's inception. And you can draw your own conclusions. But I think it's an idea of how you can make heavy subjects more entertaining. A lot of times, like personal development stuff, like the punchline is we all die.
Yeah.
Cool. Morbid. Got it. Not everybody's willing to sit with that.
Right.
All right. I'm okay with it, but I worked to that point. Not everybody's okay with it. How can we bring up this stuff in a way that makes us feel something that entertains us and grabs us and allows us to I guess, humor the thought more and ask the next question. You'll naturally walk down that pipeline, and there's a lot of beauty in that. So I think that's why actors and celebrities like that kind of get so much shine. But yeah, I'm starting to have a better appreciation for what it is as an art form.
Absolutely. Thank you for expanding on that.
My pleasure, brother.
We're going to do one more question that I love. So, billboard, side of the road, massive billboard, like a mile long. Everyone's going to see it. All genders, all species, all races, all ages. If you had an opportunity to put anything on that billboard at all, to send a message to the world, all of us humans, all of us people, what would you put on that billboard? Why would you put what you would put?
I will start with why I would put it there. This is something I say to my wife. I won't say it's like necessarily a running joke. As at the time of our recording this, it's about to be my anniversary.
Oh, wow.
But this is, like I said, it's kind of a running joke, but it would be, just in case you forget, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And to elaborate on that more, is probably brings it back to what you paused on earlier about like acknowledgement, letting people know, like, I think in most people have not been reminded that they are loved for something. And having just those words there, it's not about me saying it or who's saying it. It's how you decide you want to engage with that. Mm-hmm. People get into things like horoscopes and this and that. And I'm like, I look at them. I see them all. Do you want to call it, hokum or whatever is BS? Maybe. I don't know. Everybody loves doing all these assessments in the world. Which one's right? I don't know. And it has nothing to do about it being right, wrong, the way of doing it. Because there's no the way. There's some ways. It's about how you decide to engage with that information. And it's merely just a reflection on what you think about yourself. So if I can be the person who's really in them, they have to read it and say, just in case you forget, I love you. It's really them saying that to themselves. And that's my hope that people can feel that way.
As soon as we click stop, I'm going to text my girlfriend that just to keep her on my good side, because you could never say it enough, right? You could never say it enough.
And you know what? I'm happy that there's a trickle down effect from that. So right. Thank you. Thank you for just sharing that message.
So tell us, network with you. You're a great guy, awesome friend. I love that I can call you a friend now. How should people reach out to you, whether they want to work with you, network, any of that stuff? What's the best way to get in touch?
I mean, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I'm on Facebook. I am on what's it called? TikTok now. Yeah, I got a TikTok thing now. I got a website. It's nakedsunday.coach. Just message me somewhere. I'll respond in some way, shape, or form.
Cool.
Let's just be friends. Like I'm cool with it. My personal Instagram is at Leb in real life. But I've been on LinkedIn a lot more lately. So, I mean, let's party on, let's have some fun. I know it's mostly like a professional network, but like professionals are human beings too. Let's have some fun too. Like everything we just talked about. Why not? So yeah, just send me a message and we'll hang out. We'll talk.
I love getting personal on LinkedIn. Like it's the best place to get personal because it is. At one point it was taboo. Now I feel like it's the expectation because of what you've said. Business professionals are human. Let's be human. Reach out to me, reach out to Caleb, give us a human hello. And I just look forward to continuing the conversation with everyone. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, brother, it real hard to pull me to come talk with a friend. Man, that was a hard ask. Probably like the most easy assumed close that ever could have been on the planet. So I'll close it with my same appreciation of you, man. I'm so grateful to now have you as a friend in my life, and I see us doing some cool things together in the future as well. So like, keep being the awesome human being that you are. So
it's fair to assume there's more coming from you.
I mean, hey, you never know. Let's the journey unknown. Let's go.
We'll collab. It's gonna happen
for sure. But yeah, man, it's only just the beginning.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Rochester Business Connections. Don't forget to share this, rate, and comment on your favorite platform. You can also email me, ben@balbertmarketing.com. Let's connect soon. Until then, keep thriving, everyone.